back. This video is a little bit late because I was waiting to get some books back from a friend, but today I'm going to be reviewing all the books I read in January. So this past month I read 11 books, which I have 10 of them here with me, and one of them I borrowed from a library, so I don't actually own it. But basically I'm just going to do a quick rundown of each book in the order that I read them. I'm going to say what I rated it out of 5 stars, give a little list of the things I liked and didn't like, and then I will show the page out of my reading journal that I did on it. So let's get started. Okay, so the first book that I read in January was Gilded by Marissa Meyer. This is a young adult fantasy, and it's a retelling of the story of Rumpelstiltskin, but with obviously a lot more detail, and it has a love story in it. I'm gonna be honest, when I first started reading this book, I didn't really like it. It was taking a long time for like the plot and the characters to get developed, and I didn't think I was gonna finish it, but like halfway through the book started getting really good, and I'm honestly really glad that I read the whole thing, because if you would have asked me like the first day that I started reading it, I would have been like, this book is like 2 stars. But I ended up giving it 5 stars after reading the whole thing, which I know is like a really big jump, but I really enjoyed it. Also, y'all will probably notice I rate books very high. So for me, 1 star is like, I hated that book. It was one of the worst books I ever read. 2 stars is like, it was okay, it was a book. 3 stars is like, yeah, it was a decent book. I'm probably never gonna bring it up or think about it, but yeah, it was okay. 4 stars is like, yeah, this book is really good. I will recommend it to some people. And 5 stars is like, wow, I love this book. So this one did end up getting 5 stars. I really loved all of the characters in it, and the love story was really great. I think that looking back, I don't mind the beginning part as much, because that's when she was really developing all the characters in the setting. And originally I thought it was just taking way too long, but looking back, seeing how like everything connected and tied together, I'm really glad that Marissa Meyer did that. And she's one of my favorite authors, so I definitely recommend her books to anyone in like middle school or high school, or anyone who really loves like young adult fantasy, because they're really well written. And once you get to like the exciting parts of the book, like the second half of this one, you will not be able to put it down. I finished like the second half of this in like 1 or 2 days, and it's pretty big. It's like 600 pages. But yeah, I definitely recommend this book. 5 stars. Okay, so the second book I read in January is the sequel to Gilded, and that is Cursed by Marissa Meyer. I absolutely love the cover of this book. I think it's so pretty, and I don't really know if you can tell on camera, but it's really shiny, which I like. This book was amazing. I read the whole thing in like 1 or 2 days. It was really good. I ended up giving it 5 stars, and I liked it even more than the first one. There's some new characters and some plot twists that happen in this one that I really enjoyed. And honestly, one of the new characters that gets introduced in this book was my favorite character in the series. So this is definitely worth the read. I would read both of them. It didn't really take me that long to read, and the story was interesting, and I still think about it like all the time. And one of my close friends just finished reading the set because I let her borrow them, and she absolutely loved them, and we just talk about the characters all the time. So 5 stars, recommend it for anyone who loves fantasy. Like I said, if you love fairy tales, any of Marissa Meyer's books are perfect. Was The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. So the movie just came out last year, and I really wanted to read the book before I watched the movie, so I was trying to hurry up and read this one, which I'm so mad because I still haven't seen the movie yet. But honestly, the book was amazing, so I don't even know if I want to see the movie because I'm scared it won't be as good. But anyone who has already watched the movie, I definitely recommend you read this, because from talking to my mom about it, I've heard that the book goes into a lot more detail, and everything about this book was amazing. I love the Hunger Games series, and all the stuff that happened at the end, I'm not going to spoil it, but I was literally sitting in my bed till like 4 a.m. being like, wow. So this book I also gave 5 stars, which I know all the ones in this video have been 5 stars, but I just had a lucky January, I guess. But this book is really good. I want to watch the movie, but I haven't yet, and hopefully it does not disappoint. That I read in January was Cadaverine Queen by Alyssa Quittney. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and honestly the only way I can describe this book is like if it was Frankenstein for middle school girls, which sounds really weird, but I don't know how to explain it other than that. At first, I did not really like this book. It was one of those that started off really boring. And one of the things that was hard for me, because I guess I'm a little stupid or something, there was a lot of like medical terms in this because they're at a medical school, and I would have to like Google what they were talking about. So it kind of took me out of the story a little bit, and I think that's why I got 4 stars instead of 5 stars for me. But once it got to like the second half of the book, it was a lot more enjoyable. And I honestly did really like the characters in this, especially the main character. So I recommend it, but not to everyone. If you do not want to look up anything, don't read this book. Or if you hate anything about science or biology, don't read this book. However, if you love science, or you are in medical school or something, or you just are really interested in that, 100% read this. It was like 300 pages. Didn't really take me that long. I probably could have finished it in a day if I wanted to. You just got to get through the first half, and the second half gets better. And there is a sequel, which I read later in the month, and I'll talk about in a second. And that one was better than this one, in my opinion. But obviously, my opinions are not right on everything, so y'all might think differently. But yeah, this book is 4 stars. Pretty good, but I'm not going to recommend it to that many people, and I probably won't bring it up very much. So the next book is definitely one of my favorites that I read in January, and that is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This book was really good. It was just so fun to just sit and read. I could read it all in like, I think it took me 2 days to finish. There was a freeze going on at my house when I read this, and it was just so fun to like sit and like pretend that I was on vacation reading this. It was very lighthearted and very romantic, so it was something cute. So if you're looking for something cute and like fun to read, I definitely recommend this. It does have some more serious parts and like serious subjects in it, so I would definitely look that up if you want to read it and make sure that doesn't bother you or trigger you. But other than that, I really love this book, and I would recommend it to anyone who reads romance. And Emily Henry is an amazing author. I give this book 5 stars if I didn't already say that. Like I said, it was really good. I love the characters. Also, I love that the main girl's name is January. I just think that's so cute. And I'm so excited because I already bought 2 other books by Emily Henry that I'm going to hopefully read in February or March. And I'm so excited to read those. I got People We Meet on Vacation and Book Lovers. So hopefully those are as good as this one was. If they're not, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed. But honestly, I'm just glad that I read this one because it was really good and I enjoyed it. Just for a little bit of context for this next one, when I was in middle school, there was this series that I like loved that they always sold at the book fairs, and they were like historical fiction books, and I really loved them when I was younger. And so I bought this one a while back because it like went with the set, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be really good. And I guess I didn't account for the fact that I read them when I was younger, and now that I'm older, they definitely seem like they're written for children, which, not to discredit them because it was still a good book, but this one I give 3 stars. It's Escape from East Berlin by Andy Marino. If you have like a younger sibling, or you yourself are like a middle school age or younger, definitely recommend this. They're very historically accurate, and I feel like you can learn a lot in like a fun way. But don't really recommend this if you're above the age of like 12 or a little bit older than that. You could tell they're written for kids. They're very short, so if you just want something to read like super fast, it's like, what, like 150 pages? So that part of it was really easy, but you could tell that they're not very deep and the story isn't very established. It's kind of like if you just thought in your head, oh, a book about East Berlin, it's like copy and paste that storyline. I did like the characters in it, and there were some parts that I really did like in this book, but I'm not going to really recommend it to people. I give it 3 stars, but that's just because I did really like some of the parts, and I felt like I learned a lot reading these. But like I said, would recommend for a younger audience. I want to see if I can get my little brother to read these because I have a bunch of them still on my shelf from when I was younger, and I think he would really like those. So if you're looking for something for a kid or like a sibling, I definitely recommend any of these books. They're like through Scholastics. Some of them have different authors, but this one in general, or any of the other ones that look like this, recommend for younger people. The book that I read after Escape from East Berlin, I actually don't have with me. This one I borrowed from my school library, so I don't own a copy, but that's The Liars of Mariposa Island by Jennifer Matthew. Honestly, this book was really good. I only read it because I was trying to fill out a sheet for like my school library. It was like a challenge thing that you had to do, and I was trying to fill out the different categories, and I needed one that was from a library display, and it was the first one I saw, and I was like, I'll pick that one. So I went into it not knowing anything about it, not really knowing if it was going to be good, but I ended up really liking it. I gave it 4.5 stars, so it's higher up there. It wasn't one of my favorites that I read in January, but I would still recommend it to a lot of people. It is about this girl and her brother who live with their mom on Mariposa Island, and they have a lot of like family issues going on, and there's some different stuff going on in their like family dynamic, and they don't really know their dad. But the plot twist and stuff at the end is really good. And if you just want something that you can like read fast, I really recommend it. Also, it is a historical fiction book, so it is based on some things that really happened. And I really like that about it because I learned about some different stuff that I'd never heard of before. So I thought that was interesting. So if you're looking for some like historical fiction that's not like in your face historical fiction, I really like this because it felt like just reading a regular like fiction novel, but there was just a little bit of like history to it. And then there was some information in the back of the book that like explained that further. So like I said, if you don't normally read historical fiction, but you want to, this is a good option. Also, like if you just want something summary to read, but that has a little bit more depth to it than like Beach Read by Emily Henry, I think this is a really good option. Guys, the next one is The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. I love this book. Like I said, I got really lucky this month because I've read so many books that were like 4 to 5 stars, and it was just like one after the other of books that I really enjoyed. And I don't know if part of that is just because I got back into reading for like after not reading for so long, and so I was enjoying it, or that I just happened to choose really good books. But yeah, Beach Read, the Gilded series, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, all of those were like super amazing. And honestly, this one might even trump all of those because it was really good. I can't even pick a favorite because they were all so good. But yeah, The Housemaid by Freida McFadden. This book I recommend to anyone who loves thrillers, even if you're not typically like a thriller person, because I don't normally read thrillers. I recommend this. I got this from one of my mom's friends, gave it to me to read, and I didn't really know if I would like it or not because, like I said, I don't typically read thrillers, but the back sounded good, so I was like, okay, I'll see what, like, if it's good. I read the entire thing in, like, a few hours. I think I sat on the couch and read it all without getting up. Like, it was so good, and all the stuff that happened at the end was, like, crazy, and I've recommended it to, like, 5 people since I read it because I cannot stop thinking about all the stuff that happened. And, like, it's hard to explain because I can't explain it without making it sound weird. So honestly, all I would say is like if you like plot twists and mysteries and like not expecting things, then yes, definitely pick up this book and read it. There is another one by this author. I think it's called like The Housemaid's Secret or something like that. At least I don't think it's like a sequel directly to this book because this one didn't really leave on like a cliffhanger or anything. But it might be. But as far as I know, I think it's like a similar story but different, but I'm hoping to get that one soon and read it. I just haven't had the chance yet, and that one better be as good as this one or I'm gonna be so mad because this one was so good and I literally think about it like 24/7. Down to the final 3, and the next one is Among the Beast and Briars by Ashley Poston. I don't know how I feel about this book. I gave it 3 stars, but I keep like going back and forth with that in my head because for me, I really liked the book, but there was just one thing with the book that I could not, and this isn't really a spoiler, but basically there's this, in the beginning, the main girl, she has like a fox that like follows her around, and later in the book, he gets a magical spell, turns him into a human, and there's like a little love story thing going on, and I just couldn't with it. I was like, this is like borderline bestiality, and the whole thing just made me uncomfortable, and if it wasn't for that one aspect, I honestly would have loved the book, but because of that, the entire book, I was like rooting against the main characters, and I think that's why I didn't enjoy it, because every time it was supposed to be like romantic, I was like, go away, go away. And so I'm sure that this author is a great author, like in general, because like I said, a lot of the book was really good, and it probably would have been 4 or 5 stars if it weren't for that aspect, but just because of that, that was like the only thing I could think about the whole time, and it was just weird to me. So I definitely want to read some other stuff by this author, but just that one thing made me not enjoy it. And I feel bad for that because I know it's like one aspect of the book, but it was such a, like their relationship was such a big part of the book that I couldn't get through it without focusing on that, if that makes sense. So hopefully other books by this author I enjoy more, because like I said, I really like her writing style, and overall the book was good. Also, it was easy to read because like a lot of times you don't find fantasy books that are just one book, which this month I didn't really want to read very many series. And so that I did like about it. It was one book. It was good. The storyline was very like thought out and developed. I couldn't with the relationship, and that's why it gets 3 stars. So yeah, if you like that, there you go. But if you don't, don't really recommend it. Okay, so after that, I read Corpse and Crown by Alyssa Whitney, which this one is the sequel to Cadaver and Queen. And the next 2 books that I'm going to show on the screen look a little bit like janky because I bought them off eBay, because like you can get used books off of eBay for a lot cheaper. So like this one, I took off the paper cover because it came from like a library and there was stickers on it and it bothered me. So now it just looks like this, which I'm honestly fine with. This one's not that bad. But okay, on to the actual part of the book. This one I give 4 stars like I did the first one. Like I said before, a lot of medical terms, so if you don't really like that, like, I don't really recommend. But this one's storyline I did like more than the Cadaver and Queen storyline, but I don't know if that's just because I already knew most of the characters, and so I already knew what like was going on. Technically, if you read the first one, you do not have to read the second one. They're not like, it's not like a cliffhanger and like the same story. It's just like the same characters in 2 different stories. So you could honestly just read the first one and not read this one. I just felt like I needed to read this one because I already read the first one. And I didn't like hate the first one or anything, so I was like, might as well. But I feel like I did give it 4 stars. Like I would recommend it to some people, but I also would be fine if I never read this book, if that makes sense. Like the writing was good, but it wasn't my favorite. Like, because there's so many other books this month that I've thought about nonstop. And this one was like, it was pretty good, but it wasn't exactly for me, if that makes sense. Because the book is good, but I think it'd be better for other people. There, that's how I wanted to word that. I don't know why that was so confusing. Anyway, yeah, it's basically very similar to the other one. So if you like that one, you'll definitely like this one. You'll probably rate them about the same no matter who you are, but yeah. Okay, so we're finally on the last book, and before I talk about this book, let me just say I am mad at so many people after reading this, because I bought this book solely because I saw it all over like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, this book is so amazing. And when I was at Barnes & Noble, some girl was talking about the TV show, and I was like, okay, I just got to read this book because I'm hearing everyone say so many amazing things about it. Then I read it, and it was like, eh. And I feel bad saying that because I definitely think it's a good book because so many people like it. So I don't want my review of it to convince you not to read it. But like, it was not as good as people said it was. And I feel like that might have been part of the problem, is I was expecting it to be so good, and that's why I didn't enjoy it as much. Like if I had just read it on my own, I would have liked it more. But I was a little bit disappointed. Anyway, the book is Normal People by Sally Rooney. Like this one too is from eBay, so it's a little bit of a sketchy looking copy. I don't even really know what to say about this. Like, nothing really that crazy happened. Like, I guess some of the stuff did. Before you read this, I would look up what's in it. There is some, like, sensitive topics. A guy dealing with depression, stuff like that. But overall, I felt like this book was just about 2 people. Like, that's really it. Nothing that exciting happened. And I don't know if it's because I'm so used to reading fantasy, but like I kept waiting for like something crazy to happen. I thought somebody was gonna like die or something. Nope. And that made me so mad because you go through the entire story like wanting the 2 to get together, and it's just like over and over again. And you never, like, not to spoil it, but you never really get a conclusion to the story. It's just kind of like, well, that's where the book ends. And it made me mad. So, like I said, this book is probably really good to some people, and I've heard the TV show is really good, and it might be a lot better than this. But if you think you'll like it, don't listen to my review and go read it anyway. I just wouldn't really recommend it. But like I said, part of that might be because I heard so many good things about it, and then I was disappointed. But yeah, Sally Rooney is a good author. the book, like the storyline itself just wasn't that interesting. Also, I saw this all over Instagram too, and reading it, it bothered me so much more than I thought it would. She does not put quotation marks, like when the people are talking. And at first when people were like complaining about it on like social media, I was like, oh, it is probably not that big of a deal. Like, it's fine. Oh, that's just her writing style. And then I read it. I don't know if y'all have ever like tried to read something when you can't tell when people are talking, but there were so many times I had to reread a sentence like 3 times because I couldn't tell what they were thinking and what they were actually saying out loud because there was never any quotation marks. So that made me a little bit mad. The fact that it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be made me a little mad. And so that's why I gave it 3 stars, because yeah, it's just like, I can't even say anything like bad or good about it. It just was a book. Like, that's all I can really say. So yeah, I would listen to other reviews if you want to read it, or just don't listen to any reviews and go into it expecting it to just be a book, and then you might really like it. Because if people tell you it's amazing, you're gonna get your hopes up. So yeah, so that's all of the 11 books that I read in January. You can probably already tell this kind of from what I said about them, but definitely my favorites that I would recommend to anyone are The Housemaid, The Gilded and Cursed by Marissa Meyer, Beach Read, and probably The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Sorry if I keep looking down. They're in a pile on the floor over there. Anyway, those are my favorites that I would really recommend to anyone. The other ones, if you thought they sounded interesting from what I said, definitely go read them. None of the books I read this month were like bad. The worst I gave any of them was 3 stars, and even that's like, I would recommend it to certain people. There were a few normal people that were not my cup of tea, but overall, all of them were really well-written books, and I didn't dislike reading any of them. So that was a really good like reading month for me, especially because in 2023, I hardly read it all because I was so busy and I just didn't. And now in 2024, starting reading again, I'm realizing how many good books there are. And I'm already so excited for all the books that I'm reading in February. So stay tuned for the February video because there should be some really good book reviews in there.